Yep, this is yet another gaming keyboard from Xiaomi. This time it's a full-size keyboard with a numpad, but it has something very special under the hood, under each key. And that would be a hybrid red-black switch that is manufactured by TTC, and it seems like this is the only keyboard that currently has it on the market. And you simply can't get the switches anywhere else yet. So how does it perform, how does it feel, and what's it like using it? I've been using this keyboard for the past week or so, and it's pretty exciting. I have really enjoyed using it for gaming, typing, editing, you name it, this keyboard can do it all without much issues. Now, it's a hybrid red-black switch, and it's very interesting because you can actually type on this keyboard unlike a full red switched keyboard. As you know, red switches are very hard to actually type on and get used to because they're so light. But this guy has something special under the hood, and we're going to talk about it in depth in just a bit here. And with that said, this is Xiaomi's 4th keyboard that they have released so far, and this time it was released with a combination of other Xiaomi gaming PC peripherals. That's including their gaming headset that we have reviewed in the previous video. It sounds pretty great, it feels pretty great, and overall it was a pretty nice headset, except for the price point because there are a few things here and there that can be ironed out in a future release. And they also have released a wireless gaming mouse, which I gotta say, they have done a fantastic job at it. There's no latency, it's very precise, and it does not spin out, which is pretty crazy. But they also have one more thing, and that would be a Xiaomi gaming mousepad. I mean, you wouldn't expect them to make one, but they have actually done one, and this is also something that I totally recommend checking out in a future video along with the mouse. It's a very nice mat, it's very solid, it's a hard pad, and it sits very nice and flat, and it's got a pretty decent size, and it glides pretty beautifully. I gotta say, they have done a fantastic job with these peripherals. I mean, they have really done it this time with a nice combination of parts. But with that said, we are reviewing the keyboard today, so let's put these aside and get right into it. Taking a look at the keyboard here, we can see that it is very minimalistic, not much going on. The only branding you're going to find on this keyboard would be the Xiaomi logo on the top right, followed by a little text saying designed by Xiaomi. And you'll also notice that there are no LEDs to be found for the num lock, scroll lock, and caps lock. And that is because once you activate these keys, they'll actually turn red, which I'll show you guys what it looks like when we get to the RGB bit, because yes, this keyboard does have RGB. On the surface spanning half the keyboard would be the aluminum sheet that we have going all around the keyboard itself, all the way right down here. It is a nice dark gray color, very clean, and overall it looks pretty good. It doesn't seem like it is a fingerprint magnet. In fact, it's quite the opposite, no fingerprints whatsoever, unless you're eating Cheetos or something. On the other hand, the bottom base of this keyboard is actually made from a hard plastic material, and it's pretty damn solid. Now you may think that's about it for the bottom of this keyboard, but actually there's something that is pretty special that I personally have not seen on any other keyboard, and that would be the top rubber feet are actually removable. And if you remember, at the beginning of the video, we have unwrapped a little baggie that had these two things right here. And basically, these are rubber feet that are going to replace the top rubber feet, which when placed in return will give you a raised top keyboard. And it's pretty awesome, it works, and it's definitely not going to break if you ever end up smashing your keyboard right in the middle. They're flexible, they're rubber, and they're definitely not going to snap, and they're not annoying. They're very stationary, and they definitely keep the keyboard in place. This keyboard is not going anywhere as long as it's got a hard top surface that's going to grip onto the rubber that is included. There's what it looks like. It looks pretty weird, but it does work, and I do appreciate these way more than having a little flip out tab. Yes, you may lose the rubber pieces if you misplace them, but it does give you a very solid stationary keyboard that doesn't have any moving parts other than the keys themselves. And if you're wondering, no, this keyboard does not have any major flexing, it does not creak, it's simply very solid, and if you go ahead and press down in the middle, only if you apply a ton of pressure, you may bottom out. But to put it simply, the build quality here is pretty great, and there's nothing here that you should worry about. And lastly, moving on to the top left corner of this keyboard, we have the 6 feet long braided cable. It's a nice tight weave, and the cable itself is pretty solid, and the weaves, again, are very tight, so it looks and feels pretty great. And here's what the USB connection looks like. Now moving on to the switches themselves. If you take a closer look, they are red, and they have black dots, so they're kind of right. But in all seriousness, it is a hybrid switch. Literally, if we actually go ahead and press down the key, the first 2/3 of the switch will feel like a red. And then the rest will be a black. And if you don't know what red switches are, basically they are easy to press and actuate very quickly, which means a higher response time when you're playing games. But personally, like many other people out there, they don't like red switches, and that is because they're just way too light, and what that means is that it is very hard to type and get used to. You'll end up mashing all the buttons, and they'll just get pressed really easily, and you'll have misfires. It's not for everyone, but it does take time to get used to, and it's there if you want it. That's why we have a nice selection. But what we have here is a black switch under the red switch. So what you end up with is actually a keyboard that you can type on properly without having to actually learn anything. The keyboard layout itself is very standard. And that combined with the hybrid switches, it makes for a pretty fantastic gaming, typing, and editing experience. Because I have used this keyboard for about a week and a half now, and I've used it for editing, playing games, and typing. And I've been able to switch between those, and with pretty much zero adjustment time needed to get used to this keyboard. It was very standard, and it is exactly the same layout that I had on my ASIO MGK1 keyboard, which I absolutely love, and that actually is a blue switch. And just for the record, I personally mainly use blue and brown switches, and that's about it. On the other hand, there's actually a post on the GeekHack Forums by someone by the name of Joseph Choi. He got his hand on the keyboard and he actually tested it and created a graph, which I'll leave right over here, and I definitely recommend checking out the link in the description below if you're technical about keyboards like these. But essentially, he says that these switches are a hybrid between membrane and mechanical keys. So take that for what you want. Personally, it feels like a full mechanical keyboard. Anyways, here's what it looks like again. So it's pretty light right here, it actuates very quickly, and then you have a black on the bottom. And it feels pretty great because you can type and play games with virtually zero problems whatsoever. And lastly, before we go ahead and take a look at the RGB LEDs on this keyboard, let's go ahead and give you guys a full keyboard sound test. Here is what the keyboard looks like when it is on and it has a light directly pointed at it. And if we go ahead and turn that off, here is what it looks like when you're facing the keys. It looks pretty okay, it looks very good. And all the keys glow very nicely thanks to the transparent shell of each key. So basically you have a halo going around each key, and the letters themselves are lit as well. So it looks pretty nice, it's very clean. So let's go ahead and hold the FN key and cycle through them. So we can see that there's green, blue, yellow, purple, cyan, and white. And then back to red, which is what I currently have it as. Now this thing does not require any software, which is a big plus in my opinion. Let's go ahead and change it to a color where we can actually see what's going on here. Let's go ahead and go for green. And we can see that the num lock, it's actually lit in red. And that is because we don't have dedicated LEDs for these type of things, because then I can know easily what's going on and what's on and what's off. The same thing goes for the Windows key, so I can disable that just like that and it will be lit up. I could also do the caps lock and lastly scroll lock. And just like that, those are the keys that are lit when you disable them or enable them. Changing the brightness is very simple. FN key plus the arrow keys until it's off. Page up is the animation and page down is the color cycle. So let's go ahead and press page up here, and we can see that there are actually about 5 different zones. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now if you want to increase the speed, you can simply hold down the FN key and do the arrow keys side to side, and then you'll end up with a faster animation. Next up we have this thing, which is a random zone activator. Very boring in my opinion. Then we have the wave, which is pretty cool, and you can change the speed, and then change the colors to whatever you want, just like so. Then we have this thing, which I like to call the Tetris effect. So it builds up a block, and then it dumps them. You can also change the colors for that as well. And then you have this thing, which I like to call the Knight Rider kind of look. It is also actually available on the Xiaomi mouse, and that would be this bottom part. Then you have the Activate on Zone. So basically, whatever key you press, depending on what zone it is, it will light up the area that it is on. You know, nothing really special here. Then you have the Activate Rave on press button, so you can see what's going on here. And finally, you have the classic rainbow effect, which actually looks pretty good, and you can't really see the zone effect. And most of you are either going to have it on static, or this rainbow effect, or just simply off. And again, you can change the speed and increase it, and it looks pretty damn good. So here's a closer look at it. It looks very clean. The colors are just delicious. And I think we have one more here. And this one is a bit weird, I don't know where exactly it is, but I think it's going the other way around. You have another rainbow, and finally, I believe this is the static color. And that's about it. Alright, the conclusion. What do I think about this keyboard? Should you get it, and is it worth the money? Well, first of all, it is definitely worth the money. $53 for a Xiaomi gaming keyboard that is as good as this, and it's actually on sale right now, so if you want to take a look at it, I'll leave a link for it in the description below. Without a doubt, they have done a fantastic job in creating a gaming keyboard that just simply works. So, things that can be improved, I would like to see a volume rocker right over here, any type. A volume rocker will definitely improve this keyboard, but again, it might add the cost. Another thing that can be improved would be the cord here. If they can actually make it removable or changeable, we can actually set it up wherever you want across the keyboard here. And that's actually about it. Honestly, I don't care about the software, I just want a keyboard that works. Maybe they could add a wrist rest, better improved RGB function. But most importantly, in my opinion, I would like to see a volume rocker and a better cable management system. Maybe a removable Type-C cable in the center, who knows? But personally, the only thing that this keyboard is missing would be a volume rocker, and this thing would be golden. Again, it is $53, so you can't complain for what this keyboard is. It's one of a kind, and it's pretty fantastic. They have done an absolutely fantastic job at their first full-size gaming keyboard. So with that said, guys, that is actually pretty much it for this video. So stay tuned for the upcoming videos where we'll be taking apart this keyboard, and another video where we'll actually be reviewing the gaming mouse and the gaming mousepad. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Hope you have enjoyed this video. If you found it helpful, if you did, hit the like button and subscribe for content like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.